Welcome back to the garage. Or if you're new to the channel and this is the very first video of mine that you've seen, welcome to the garage. My name is Zane. In today's video, you might have guessed it, I got the CJ2A frame here in the garage getting ready to do some disassembly and some heavy repairs, you might say. Now this video honestly wouldn't even be possible if it wasn't for the kindness of today's video sponsor, and that is CNC Equipment out of Nashville, Indiana. So let me take you and show you what they actually sent for this project to push it further along. If you're not too familiar with the previous video in this series where I went over and showed the frame, just take a look at how bad this driver's side frame rail has been hacked together over the years. You can see a patch on top of a patch. Looks like some of it was stick welded together. This back here was brazed, but no need to worry. Clinton and his crew sent over the replacement for this side and also the one for the passenger as well. Here's another look at the reproduction driver's side frame rail. Then we come over here to the passenger side. You can see this one as well. They were also kind enough to send both of the steps to get into the tub of the Jeep body itself. Even though I won't be needing these for quite a while, it's nice to still have them. I don't know if the camera audio is picking that up outside, but it's starting to rain heavily, so I'm really glad I got the frame in here because it was already a muddy mess and I could barely put the Bobcat back in the shed where it goes. But anyway, I wanted to say a very special thank you to Clinton and his crew for sending these reproduction frame rails and the steps out for this project. They appear to be nice quality products and they help me out a lot more than you all would ever know. Now, I don't mean this in a bragging way, but if you have a small channel of your own and you watch mine, hopefully this is more inspiring than anything, because if you check my subscriber count, I don't have 1 million subscribers, but that doesn't mean that a good quality company like CNC Equipment won't find you or help you out along the way. Clinton has a channel of his own. I'll link it in the video description below. If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe, and I know you will because it's family friendly. And one thing that I absolutely love and admire about his channel is anytime he's outside working on something, he usually has his son with him and he's teaching him how to work on stuff with his own 2 hands. And really, in the big scheme of things, that's what it's all about. And that's keeping the art of wrenching alive. If you watch these videos and you're a gearhead yourself, you've probably learned early on that there's more than one way to do a job. Now, just because I do something differently than you does not mean that it's wrong or that you should do it the same way that I am. With that being said, before I even start taking this apart or cutting on it, I want to get in here and measure diagonally from corner to corner on both sides and make sure that this frame is even square before I start doing anything to it. The reasoning behind this is when I had the tub in here and removed the body from this chassis, I don't know if it's an optical illusion, but it looks to me like the passenger side frame rail is nice and straight. But then when you go over to the driver's side, it almost appears like the section over the axle is leaned out a little bit, and it almost looks like where the steering shaft is hooked on that it has a bow in it. Now, I could straighten this out, I could chain it down probably on the bed of my rollback and try to get this thing straight before I start cutting on it. But if I start cutting on it and try to do that after, it's going to turn into a soup sandwich really fast. Now, it could be an optical illusion, or it might be the fact that when this frame was repaired, it wasn't lined up square and they just kind of welded it back together however it was. Either way, it's going to be difficult to take measurements with all the body mounts, so that's why I have the string line here. I'm going to measure out about 1 inch from this frame in the front and back, and I should be able to compare my measurements from the driver's side to the passenger and make sure that this thing is square before I start chopping it up. So to get the string line set up as accurately as I can, I measured out 2 inches from the front of the frame as well as 2 inches to the rear of the frame. That way it gets the string line out of the way of these body mounts and it doesn't throw it off in either direction. In the camera's view, it probably looks like the rear shock mount is rubbing, but there's about 1/4 of an inch gap, so there's no issue with that. Next order of business is to find spots in the frame to measure up, ironically, with a framing square to see if this frame is bent. Now let me get you down here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I've got the string line set up. You can see that there's tension on here. Now, in theory, if I measure in the same spots from passenger side to driver, that should let me know if things are bent. So I take my framing square, hold it up just rearward of the front spring hanger, and I've got right at 1.5 inches outward from the frame. So if I take this over to the other side, let me show you what I found. Whenever I move the string line to the driver's side, this is when things get fun. You ever just look at one of your projects, cross your fingers, and hope that things would go simple for a change? Yeah, that's me right now, because I've got the string line set up, and if I measure in the same spot of where I had the framing square on the passenger side, here on the driver's, I hold it up flat, and I have 2 1/8 inches, meaning this frame is out of square. It's actually pretty bad out of square, so I don't know if maybe it smacked a tree at one point. The person that I bought this from, however so long ago, I think it's been about 2.5 years, the fella told me that they weren't too easy on it. They basically used it like a tractor. And the person's property was basically a big hill, so I don't know, maybe one day if it popped out of gear and the front frame horn smashed into a tree. But anyways, let me take you and show you a few of the other things that I found out as well. First, taking a look at the passenger side frame rail for a reference, it looks like both the top and the bottom are nice and straight from spring hanger to spring hanger. Now let's show you the driver's side. Here's the driver's side. Nothing looks really bad until you get behind this cross member. You see that? Where the frame has a step in it. I think that's where the damage starts. So let me go ahead and get a few more measurements and we'll see what's going on. Right where the frame starts to step down on the passenger side, I've got this gauge sitting here. Now the camera's probably not going to zoom in that good, but it looks like it's sitting at about 1 or 2 degrees. And that's on the passenger side, so let's go take this to the driver and see what it looks like. On the driver's side, right in front of the rear spring hanger, you can see the needle is sitting right at about 6 degrees. So that means that this is where the frame starts to bow in. But you can see the step in the driver's side. I've got my framing square and this gauge. If I hold it back here, before it starts stepping up, right at 90 degrees. So if I move down on the other side of this cross member where the bend is at, it steps up here to about 93, and the further I go up, it starts leaning out even more. So hopefully you're understanding the twist that's in this frame. As for my diagonal measurements, going from the backside of the rivet at this rear cross member to the dimple in this frame is 55.5 inches. But if I go the opposite direction, if I can get the tape measure set up without doing 2 or 3 different cuts in the video, it's sitting right at 55.75 inches, meaning the frame is leaning to the inside, but I'm thinking that if I pull it back out straight, that will get things squared up again. Now, I have gone from the very far corner in the back to the one up front. The measurements don't seem too far off, but I don't really want to trust that because I got to measure on the spot that they butchered up to begin with, so I don't really want to trust that. But anyways, now it's time to start thinking on how to do this and fix it. You want to say the right way or the poor man's way? Because I think we're going to do it the poor man's way. If you watch my other videos, you'll probably think this one is really rushed, and to be completely honest with you, yes it is. The weather's 21 degrees now. It was about 50 last week. I do have some firewood, but I need to go cut here in about 15 or 20 minutes. And next week, it's supposed to snow on Christmas, so I'll probably be plowing snow. And I want to have some kind of video to put out before Christmas, so I'm trying the best that I can. I hope you appreciate at least some kind of content. But anyways, again, this is the frame. My plan is to strap it down on the back of my rollback, and I'll actually chain the parts that I know are straight. I'll chain them in place, and what I need to do is get in here, maybe with a ratcheting binder or maybe even a piece of equipment, and pull this back out to where it lines up and is straight. The reason I'm doing that is because if I get in here and cut this, whenever I go to put the new frame rail on here, it's going to make it virtually impossible to do that. because the frame, instead of being the actual C-channel it is leaned like that. So if I get in here with a new one and try to put it on there straight, it's never going to line up to weld, and I don't want to have to twist that brand new frame section to put on this old frame. So chain it down, again, like I said, in the spots that I know it's straight. I might even put a piece of metal in here, that way I don't distort that at all. I almost forgot to mention that I need to get in here with some jack stands as well and support the axles on the passenger side. Make sure this rail is level whenever I go to pull on the driver's side. So like I mentioned, the plan is to put this on the back of my rollback, anchor it down, and make sure that everything is square before I start pulling on the driver's side. But anyways, if you watch this video up until this point, let me tell you, you're a trooper, because it's a lot of talking, no work, so I greatly appreciate that. I was actually trying to film putting this on the back of my rollback, but it's so cold out, my rollback won't start, neither one of the forklifts will start, and I'm just kind of at, the weather's mercy outside right now, so this is where I'm going to have to end it. But anyways, if you leave comments, subscribe to the channel, give it thumbs up, I greatly appreciate that. It helps me out a lot more than you would ever know. I will hopefully see you in part 2 very soon as the snow and everything is over with and I can actually get stuff moved around outside. But until then, always remember that it doesn't matter if you're working on your project in a garage or in your driveway. What matters is that you go out there, you do the job yourself, and you learn more about your project, whatever that project may be. Now that this video's over, and hopefully for your sake you have a heated garage, how about you go out and work on something? My name is Zane, and I'll catch you next time.